Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Reese part number S257DPR. This is what's referred to as a panic type threshold. It might be called a latch track threshold as well, or a bump up threshold. All three of those terms apply. So the bump up style, you can kind of get the idea of what we're referring to when we call it a bump up style. When the door closes, makes a nice positive contact with the face of the insert. The latch track, it's just a threshold that's meant to infer that it is this type of shape that has a face against which the door makes contact with. Is the door completely in the sealed position when it's latched? Yes, I suppose that could be it as well. Now, when they call it a panic type threshold, what they're referring to there is when the door closes and your application is such that you have surface vertical rod exit devices, most likely on a pair of doors, but you could certainly on a single door. And in fact, nowadays it's not uncommon to have single doors with multi-point latches, even though many instances those are concealed. But in the event where you have a surface vertical rod exit device, you can attach your strike right down to the top of the plateaued area of the threshold, is what this is intended for. And this type of threshold is very commonly used for that purpose. Now, I wouldn't use this one for that sort of application. I would probably opt to use a panic-style threshold that had an integrated concave sort of feature to the backside of it, which I'll show you, which would allow you to skip the installation of the bottom strike altogether. Now, if you had an exit device that was a bolt style, and you're going to literally prep the top of this for the bottom assembly that is a bolt rather than a latch, this could very likely be the most appropriate application. So let's take some basic dimensional properties, and then we'll touch again on where you're going to use this. Overall width, looks like it's a 5-inch. Overall height, ½ inch. Down over here where the door is going to sit, you're going to be about a 1/4 inch. So the ultimate question becomes what is your undercut? Where are you going to use this? What's the most appropriate way to use it? The other question that we get often, which we'll address in a moment, is how wide each of the primary segments are on the threshold. You can see up to the bump up, it's about 3 inch, and then you're going to have about 2 inch left over here. And of this insert material, it's about 1 7/8 inches. This is a PR insert, and we'll go over that in a moment. Let's talk about what your undercut should be, and let's talk about specifically where you'll see this. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Well, your undercut's probably going to be in the range of 3/8 of an inch, I would guess, is what I would end up doing. Now, that means that your standard door is not going to work with this, meaning your standard typical hollow metal door will have a 3/4 inch undercut. Yes. No, it will have a 7/8 undercut. It'll have a 3/4 inch clearance. So the undercut is the dimension from the bottom of the door to the bottom of the jamb. By design in hollow metal standard, it's 7/8 of an inch. So your 7-foot door is going to be 6'11" and 1/8 for a 7-foot tall door. But your clearance, well, the clearance can be anything, but if the clearance is the dimension from where the jamb is going to sit on top of and the underside of the door, it'll be 3/4 inch. This would not work for that application. Now, it might work if you took that 3/4 and you reduced it, you had a 1/4 inch underlayment or some sort of subfloor that is there that this is going to end up sitting over. Then it may work out better for you, but you're going to need a little bit more than a 1/4 inch. Probably 3/8 would be my guess, would be a better dimension to take up that 3/4 so that you're getting back to 3/8 of an inch for this. So why would someone specify this when it fouls the use of standard hollow metal? Well, the bottom line is you want your door to run as long as possible. The more work that you do to reduce the clearance, the bottom of the door to the top of the floor, or what the jamb might sit on. The term clearance is going to be the top of the floor to the underside of the door. But the term clearance also refers to when it's all said and done. You know, what flooring is there? Your clearance after you've put flooring could be 1/8 of an inch. So clearance is important because it's the room that you're left over with to stick the threshold in. So knowing whether or not this will work in a specific clearance application is dependent on what's the flooring condition. What are you putting this on top of? We know the jamb's going to run down and sit on top of something, but the flooring's not going to. The flooring's very likely going to be inside of the space and coped around the profile of the jamb leg. So, will this work for a standard 3/4 inch, clearance hollow metal door, a 7/8 undercut standard stock door? It might. That means you're going to have a flooring condition that will raise it up. So you'll want a threshold like this because you always want to reduce the amount of margin between the bottom of the door and the threshold. The smaller amount of space that you are sealing against the exterior is always better. And then again, this type of panic device threshold is going to be best suited for a bolt application. There are bottom latches that are bolts rather than latches. But you can take that standard bottom strike that you'll have from your vertical rod exit device and attach it again right to this. Where you'll see thresholds like this will be in pairs of doors that are emergency exits, and both of the doors have surface vertical rod exit devices on them. Surface vertical rod exit devices are nice because they work towards allowing independent operation of each door. So you can hit either door independently at either time and exit. You can possibly come in either door independently at any time and enter. And this sort of threshold works with the intended hardware. But it's also just nice to have a bump-up threshold, where I like the belt and suspenders approach, where you've got an exterior door. If you've got a tight margin below the door and what you're going to install this onto, 3/8 of an inch, and it's an outswing, I like the door being able to make contact against that. I've got a good seal here. But the belt and suspenders approach tells me I really want to have a barrier out here. I'd like to have a sweep out here. I'd even like to have a drip cap out here so that I'm getting my initial line of defense as close to the exterior as possible. I've got a good positive seal here. That's nice because the transfer of cold from the outside to the inside, this will help absolutely reduce the temperature of the door and transferring that because of contact to the metal plate or the aluminum plate to the inside of the opening. So that's really nice. I've even done jobs where we've done a bump-up style, we've done an exterior sweep with a drip cap, and we've done a mortised automatic door bottom. So we are really sealing the door really well, possibly too much. This is the D finish. This is a dark bronze anodized finish from Reese. The best looking dark bronze anodized finish in the business. Many manufacturers will ship Many manufacturers will have dark bronze that is substantially darker than what you would expect. I've had clients tell me that the material from XYZ company is black. It's not black. They don't make black, or they didn't at that time. They probably do now because black is very popular. But it is so dark that it doesn't complement oil-rubbed bronze type hardware. This Reese product absolutely does. The other thing that Reese does substantially better than the competition is when they ship you the product, it's not damaged, it's not dented, it's not scratched, it's not dusty, it's not in a condition where the screws have been packaged such that it can damage the material in transportation. And the material is always very clean and free of defect. If you're ordering a threshold that has a finish on it, rather than it being just mill, you expect that finish to show up in good condition because you're clearly matching the aesthetic, the finish choice on the opening. And Reese does an exceptional job. Let's switch to the screen view and let's take a closer look at all of the supporting information. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, let's take a look at the item that we've got going here, which is our S257D in a PR. Let's dissect that. It's a threshold. The profile is 257. It's D for dark bronze, and it's PR for their black polyprene insert. It's a synthetic rubber, is what it is. Here's a cross-section. This is right out of the catalog, showing you the dimensional properties. The only thing they don't tell you is that this dimension is 3-inch, and this one is 2-inch. It would be nice if that was included, because people do ask that, because the reference line of where you're going to install your threshold has everything to do with the jam condition, the in-swing or out-swing relationship, and where it all falls dimensionally. Okay, let's take a look at the extended description. Fire rated. If you need this to be fire rated, indicate that in the comment field, in the sense of it being a labeled product. If you have a fire rated opening, by all means indicate that. There's usually not an additional charge. There are some instances where there would be. We'll let you know about that before we do anything. If this was the genuine article, and I should have mentioned it's just a 6-inch sample piece that I've been showing, it would include 10 by probably 1.5 flathead Phillips wood screws would be included. Yeah, prefix F in the comments. Yeah, about your fire rating, you can see that. Different inserts are available, which we'll look at in a moment in the product brochure, but quickly, it's vinyl, the one here, polyprene, urethane, pile, and silicone. Please select the product with the wanted insert. So what you would do is you would make it an S257 finish, and then your insert. So for vinyl it's V, for polyurethane it's U, and so forth, like we've got here. Let's take a look at the product brochure that's here. This document will allow you to look at other panic type thresholds. Now this is the type of shape I was referring to earlier. If you have a latch, you would not use a bottom strike on these, and this would be what I would suggest if you had a latching bottom rod on your exit device. Probably even work really well here. But in the S257, probably going to have a bolt here, would be my guess. 2 finishes, mill aluminum, and then the D for dark bronze. And then you just, again, add the insert at the very end of it as listed here. So when it comes to these sort of panic thresholds, what's most important in my experience is what height do you need? But it's a confluence of 2 requirements. How much clearance are you working with? And then what's the overall height that you can have? And those 2 have to work together with each other. Obviously, you want to make sure if you're working under handicap compliant applications, many of these thresholds will be immediately disqualified because of their overall height and because of this relationship here, this height, this rise over run relationship. Anywhere you see that, you know you're in calm waters when it comes to that requirement. Where the door is positioned, you have to think about all that stuff. Offset style thresholds when you're navigating 2 different floor surface heights, etc. I'll tell you, the one that I like the most, the one that I really like, it's not here, let me show it to you. Installation, that's just a very simple document. It says measure twice, cut once, that sort of stuff. Let me show you the threshold I like the most when it comes to this type. There's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page here where you can click on that and you can view not only all of the Reese products we sell by means of this horizontal navigation as seen here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Before we get to it, this video will show you finishes from Reese. So if you're wondering what their D finish looks like, you can go to minute mark 40 seconds. There you go. That's an actual example. This is actually a video that we've took. You can see how the hue of it changes as the light hitting it changes. But it's, in my experience, it's never darker like this, and it's always lighter like this. You want to see what their clear anodized looks like, get over to 219. Right there. Helpful video for that. So the catalog and the threshold that I like. 257. Okay. Here it is. This is the one that I like. The 252. This gives you a bump up, and it also gives you this leading lip. Now what's nice about that, onto that leading lip on the face of the door, you're going to install this hook strip with the inserted seal here. Makes great contact with this. Really seals you outside and inside. This one I like a lot. I wish this principle was available in additional widths and heights, but a 1/2 inch height, a 7/8 overall height is going to be really great for stock hollow metal doors. It's not handicap compliant, but it'll really get you there. So in this catalog, you'll be able to find all of the material that Reese produces. It's not the most expansive product offering, but it is complete in all regards. If you need something Reese related, if you need something weather stripping related, it would be unusual for Reese to not be able to offer you a solution. And one thing that Reese does is they will cut and weld items together. I've had Reese manufacture me thresholds that were maybe 18-inch wide, or maybe a little bit wider. They may have been 20-inch wide. We were doing about 18-inch deep jams, frames, steel frames, hollow metal frames with 20-inch jam depths. And we needed very, very wide thresholds, and Reese, without a trouble, was able to fabricate that custom material for us. There's STC material in here, sound transmission control. If you were to search for STC, you'll find this table that it tells you what products you can use to hit specific STC ratings, and they have automatic door bottoms, etc. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, wrapping up our Reese video. I am extremely partial when it comes to Reese as a supplier of weather stripping. It's who I would use personally. Why? Many reasons. First of all, that dark bronze. It's the best looking that there is in the industry, according to me. Number 2, prompt, predictable, reliable, dependable shipping lead times, customer service, tech support, etc. Number 3, the one that you might want to think about the most, is every time I get a Reese product, it generally feels heavier. So I decided years ago that I would try to figure out why, and I would look at their drawing and say, well, I can't really tell much, but I'd put a caliper on their material, and I'd compare it to others. And their material is always a little bit thicker. To me, that tells me that it's a more robust sort of threshold. Aluminum thresholds are not really going to last, thousands of cycles on a door a day. They will dent, they will scratch, they will become destroyed sooner or later, and that's where you see solid architectural bronze thresholds. But their material is always a little bit thicker, and to me that says they're only, I imagine what they're trying to say with that is, we know what it takes to sell a quality product, and a marginally thicker, a measurably thicker extrusion to us tells us that that's how we want to operate our business, and that's what we want to supply. And again, prompt, reliable, predictable across the board. Their shipping lead times, while they are a manufacturer, things are made to order, they have a lead time, they have a minimum order. They are on average the quickest to ship in my experience. They will never be the least expensive, but in my estimation, they will be of the highest quality. Any questions on the S257DPR or any other Reese product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.